G'day guys and welcome back to another 32 builds video. Last time I got started on some rust repairs on the body of the ute. It was also my first time welding and I was having a lot of trouble. In this episode we continue with this section of the ute, and although my welds still look like something that's come out of my cockatiel, I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of things, especially towards the end of this video. To kick things off, I'm going to go over some of the welds from last time and just fill in some of the pinholes from behind. Just recently switched over to gas MIG welding with 0.6mm wire, and at this point I'm still a little bit scared to turn up the voltage. This is apparent as my welds are still sitting a bit proud. As you can see, even after grinding things down, my welds are still looking a little bit rough. I've put pressure on the area, given it a twist, and I've got some confidence in the strength of this repair. But to prevent rust from rapidly appearing again, I'll cover the welds in some seam sealer just to be safe. I use painter's tape to mask off the area for clean application, and use some parts cleaner to soften the seam sealer to smooth it out. Next I'll work on this inner skirt support piece. It's pretty rotten, so it's gonna need a lot of repair. I was able to find a replacement piece on an online store, but it turned out to be a bit too expensive for me. So instead, I'll pay for it in labor and fix up the existing one. I take the piece upstairs to remove all the rust, and after getting an idea of where the metal is most thin, I can then mark out the areas of metal that I'm going to replace. So these are all the pieces I've made that'll go into the repair of this support piece. After molding them into their correct shapes, I get onto welding. One thing's for sure, I'm definitely getting real good at plugging up blow-throughs. Moving on, I'll fit up the pieces together to make sure they still line up. I even bring out the exterior cowl piece to make sure it still goes on. The repairs aren't perfect, but it can all be massaged and clamped in before welding. Here you can see I forgot to drill in a couple holes for the plug welds. Not a problem though, I'll just use my brand new spot weld drill bit, which ended up drilling through one layer of the metal perfectly. I'll also slather the inside of this piece with seam sealer, just to make sure my rough welds don't rust. I grind down the remaining rust and paint in the area, apply some rust remover, and then coat it in some weld through primer to prep for welding. The next day I come downstairs to something that looks like a scene from Titanic. The bottom of the car was half submerged in water, threatening to drown my welder and various tools. Sydney was in the middle of a massive downpour, and it looked like I wasn't going to be able to work on the car for a little bit. For now, I decided to put the car on the highest setting on my jack stands and hope for the best. I wasn't sure if I damaged my jack by using it underwater, but everything turned out okay. Nothing was damaged in the end. Back to work. Another thing I learned through this process is to be more careful where I slather the seam sealer. It catches on fire pretty easily when welding, but I managed to get through it with a wet rag and a spray bottle of water. I do have a personal fire extinguisher handy, just in case. Since I drilled right through the spot welds when removing this piece, I'm using a squished piece of copper pipe as backing to make it easier to plug weld the holes. Now moving on to this piece. I made this replacement piece about 2 episodes ago, but before I attach it to the car, I have to remove some of the old metal around the area. This also meant I had to repair this top ledge of the firewall for the next piece to sit on and be welded to. Again, seam sealing my repair welds. Next up, I'll prep to paint this area of repair. I'm going to use rubberized underbody paint, which will eventually be the final finish of this whole wheel arch. It doesn't look half bad, all coated in thick black paint. Just a couple finishing repairs and that'll be it for this area. The plan now is to pump out the same repairs on the other side and then get the cowl back on. Then I can finally strip and paint the engine bay and chuck the motor back in. The door seals I can repair with the motor and wheels installed. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. Apologies for the delay on this one. I went on a 2-week holiday to Osaka. If you like what you saw in the video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I've also got an Instagram and Facebook page where I'll be posting updates on everything I'm doing in between videos. Thanks for watching.
We better not be in this water for too long, babe. Why? Smells really bad.